Welcome to the deep dive. We are staring down a terrifying stack of sources today. We have eyewitness accounts, classified Starfleet reports that go back nearly a century, and a whole lot of emergency transmission logs.
And our mission here is to try and cut through some of that fog of panic.
Exactly. We're going to unpack the catastrophic reappearance of a long-buried Starfleet technology known only by its deceptively simple code name, Project Genesis.
And this is so much more than just a standard military crisis. It feels like the return of a century-old ghost.
Yeah.
The history of Genesis is something the Federation spent decades trying to, destroy and bury. But its reappearance now is, well, it's an unprecedented, devastating, and seemingly unstoppable energy wave.
And we really have to emphasize the scale for you. This isn't a skirmish on some disputed moon or, a diplomatic incident gone wrong.
No, not at all.
This is an expanding energy wave, and it's traveling through space. It has already, and we have confirmed this, erased entire stellar systems from the map.
We're talking about the complete loss of Siran, the major Klingon influence world of Hakon, and Peleus V just gone.
And the most chilling fact in all of these reports is that this Genesis wave, it appears undiminished. It's currently on a trajectory that points directly toward the core of the Federation.
Including Earth itself.
Including Earth.
What gives this whole disaster just another layer of terror, though, is that Starfleet Command knew this was possible. They weren't reacting blind.
Right.
We have high-level classified documents that indicate they were anticipating the reappearance of Genesis months ago. Specifically, they were tracking the sudden disappearance of the one person who held the blueprints in her mind.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we confront the firestorm that's bearing down on the quadrant, we have to start with the architect, Dr. Carol Marcus. When a technology this lethal resurfaces, the fate of the creator becomes immediately critical. We have to understand the burden of her knowledge.
Dr. Carol Marcus is absolutely the central tragic figure in this entire catastrophe.
Yeah.
Our sources place her on the isolated, paradisiacal planet of Pacifica. She is technically under Starfleet protection, but the reality is she's living in a gilded cage. It's an exile.
How old is she now?
She has reached the extraordinary age of 135 or 136, and her life is described as one of just profound isolation, guilt, and this endless punishment for crimes she didn't really commit, but for which she holds the blueprint.
And you have to imagine the scene. She's surrounded by the most pristine beauty imaginable. Turquoise seas, blue pebbles, copper-colored sand. And she's still practicing science.
Right. But her current pursuits are described as glorified make-work.
It's kind of heartbreaking. She's patiently engineering the entire copper sand beach into a massive, passive solar energy collector. She's using these tiny filaments, making sure she doesn't disturb the natural ecosystem.
She has the patience of a saint. But the deep tragedy is that she's constantly wondering if anyone in the Federation hierarchy even cares about her progress or her existence.
And her internal notes, her psychological assessments, they just reveal this deep, crushing weight of her past.
Her isolation is a direct result of two events. First, the spectacular destruction caused by the first Project Genesis device decades ago.
Right.
And second, far more agonizingly, the brutal murder of her son and colleague, David Marcus, during that original incident.
She carries this immense guilt that she left him behind in that terrible place, and that his life was, the ultimate cost of her ambition.
She's the quintessential scientist as outcast. She possesses this forbidden knowledge that the Federation hierarchy and the wider galaxy just wishes had never existed.
So she operates under the understanding that Starfleet tried to scrub all traces of her early work from the records.
Exactly. Because it was deemed too dangerous, too controversial. She is valuable only because she holds that secret in her highly advanced aging mind.
And this brings us to the crucial, devastating pivot point that explains Starfleet's current state of alert.
Yes, a high-level report from Admiral Nikayev confirms that Dr. Carol Marcus was, in fact, kidnapped by unknown parties 6 months prior to the appearance of this wave.
6 months, so they knew.
They knew. This is why Starfleet was already bracing for the possibility of the Genesis technology resurfacing. The enemy got the secret right from the source, and Starfleet knew the clock was ticking.
That context is it's vital. Okay, so now we need to look back at the technology itself. Before it became this secret weapon, what exactly was Project Genesis, and why did it escalate into the Federation's most toxic secret?
Well, Project Genesis began with the most altruistic of intentions. It was initiated back in August 2270. A voluntary effort led by over a dozen brilliant scientists.
Right. And the core goal was just astonishing.
It was to develop a process to transform uninhabitable planets, Class D planetoids, dead moons, sterile asteroids, into worlds suitable for sustaining a variety of life forms.
In short, rapid terraforming.
Exactly. Turning them into Class M worlds capable of supporting life in weeks, not centuries.
The scientific challenge there must have been immense. They faced two monumental technical hurdles, right?
Monumental. The first was just wrangling the sheer energy required, harnessing and controlling the behavior of a wide variety of subatomic particles within this thing called the Genesis matrix.
That alone sounds like it's pushing the boundaries of known physics.
It was. But the second challenge was the killer. Preventing what they termed premature degradation of matter once the transformation was triggered.
Okay, let's stop there and clarify for you, the listener. If you strip away the physics jargon, what does annihilation of the strong and weak nuclear forces actually mean for a planet?
Think of it this way. The strong and weak nuclear forces they're the cosmic glues. The strong force holds the nuclei of atoms together. The weak force governs radioactive decay.
Okay.
If those are momentarily annihilated, the matter itself loses the fundamental bonds holding it together. It literally melts down, becomes unstructured components.
And then the Genesis matrix is supposed to reassemble those components.
Precisely. Into the desired organic material for a Class M world. The challenge was ensuring that the matter renormalized, that the glue came back, before everything just degraded into chaos.
And it was Carol Marcus's son, David Marcus, who finally cracked it.
In 2283, yes.
Yeah.
He achieved that long-term stabilization of matter reorganized by the matrix. It was supposed to be the achievement of the millennium, transforming scarcity into abundance.
But the triumph was spectacularly short-lived.
Very. Just 2 years later, in March of 2285, the first-generation Genesis device prototype was stolen by the criminal Khan Noonien Singh.
And violently detonated inside the Mutara Nebula.
Yes. And the immediate outcome was a complete disaster.
The resulting Genesis planet was erratic, unstable, it aged rapidly, went through these catastrophic seismic shifts, and then just quickly disintegrated.
Right. So Starfleet and the Federation political structure concluded the technology was a failure. It was deemed unsafe for the creation of habitable worlds and ultimately worthless for rapid terraforming.
The political fallout must have been insane.
Immediate and catastrophic. The Klingon High Council, the Romulan Senate, they both viewed the device as a major strategic threat. They demanded technical specifications to maintain the balance of power.
And the Klingons explicitly threatened more forceful means if the Federation didn't comply.
Exactly. This diplomatic chaos ultimately led to the Genesis Non-Proliferation Treaty in December of 2286.
And that treaty was absolute, wasn't it? It mandated that all records, research, schematics, logs, everything be destroyed, and that all active research be terminated.
It was. This was the Federation, under intense international duress, sweeping the entire deadly concept under the diplomatic rug. The knowledge was meant to be eradicated.
That's what the public believed.
That is what the public believed. But the story of Genesis didn't end with a treaty and a bonfire of research notes. This is where the Federation's moral dilemma really begins. We have obtained access to a classified Starfleet R&D report, filed much later in 2374.
A century later.
Nearly a century after the treaty, and it completely contradicted the official narrative.
Wait, so the Federation maintained top-secret research for almost 100 years. What did this internal report on you?
It argued that the conventional wisdom was wrong. They stated that the rapid disintegration of the Genesis planet was unfairly blamed on David Marcus's use of unstable protomatter.
So what was the real problem, according to them?
The real problem, they suggested, was the target. Deploying it in a nebula, which is essentially an energetic soup, compromised the integrity of the matrix.
So their conclusion was that the device was actually stable. When deployed in the environment, it was designed for a clean, lifeless target, like a small moon or an asteroid.
Precisely. The R&D team cited the continued stability of the Genesis cave, that small underground ecosystem within the regular asteroid, as their proof.
Right, that cave was transformed by the device on a microscale, and it remained stable for decades.
Exactly. Therefore, they concluded the technology was far from worthless.
That changes everything about their political integrity. So Starfleet R&D concluded that the technology had enormous potential civilian, scientific, and military applications.
They did. And they were so determined to keep studying it, they argued, and I'm quoting here, "We must not let others turn our own science against us because we are too morally repulsed to look beyond the horrors of the device's failures to see its full potential."
Wow.
It's the classic fear of the arms race, isn't it? They believed that if they destroyed the knowledge, someone else would inevitably invent it.
So they continued this top-secret research hidden from the public in violation of the treaty.
Right up until the point Carol Marcus was abducted and the blueprints fell into enemy hands. They didn't just hide a failed weapon, they actively sequestered a potentially successful galaxy-changing technology, knowing the full moral risk involved.
The ultimate irony being, of course, that by hiding the knowledge and letting it fall into the wrong hands, they have now ensured the exact outcome they feared. Their own science is being turned against them.
And that historical context brings us right back to the present crisis, where that potential has been realized in its most devastating perfected form.
This is no longer a small targeted torpedo. This is an indiscriminate energy wave sweeping across star systems.
And the first victim we have detailed accounts from is the planet Saran. This is where we meet Dr. Leah Brahms.
A brilliant warp field engineer.
Yes, and she was on Saran working on a phase-shifting radiation suit prototype when the crisis hit. Her account gives us the first true look at the Genesis wave's effects.
And the word harrowing doesn't even begin to cover it. The accounts describe the wave as cataclysmic and mutagenic, radical.
This isn't just an explosion. It's an instant, total reorganization of matter. Mountains, valleys, even tiny pebbles instantly crumble into what she described as molten, fiery sludge.
And the effects are biological as well as geological.
Oh, yes. The seas boil, creating these plumes of superheated steam, and entire forests of trees are just thrown into the atmosphere like kindling in a cyclone.
But the real terror sets in when the new life appears.
The planet begins to throb like a star-going nova, and it spews forth these obscene, writhing life forms, monstrous stalks, and thick, aggressive vines.
It sounds like the planet itself is being turned inside out and reimagined as something monstrous. The atmosphere becomes a choking, blood-streaked miasma.
Because all organic material, every living creature, blood, organs, bone, is broken down and instantly fused with the surrounding earth. It creates this new, seething, twitching morass of life.
She watched millions, including her husband and her colleagues, die this grotesque, anonymous death.
The transformation is instantaneous and complete. It proves that the stabilization problem David Marcus solved was not, in this application, a priority for the weapons deployer. They wanted transformation, but a destructive one.
And the only reason Leah Brahms survived, which is a miracle in itself, was her proximity to her prototype radiation suit.
It was designed for extreme emergency engine room radiation exposure, but it utilized sophisticated phase-shifting technology.
Can we clarify exactly how that saved her? What is phase shifting?
Phase shifting in this context is essentially slipping out of sync with normal reality. The suit, when she manually activated it, allowed her to waver in and out of the temporal plane.
So she's sort of flickering.
Exactly. Think of time as a continuous river. She was intermittently pulling herself onto the bank for a fraction of a second, then immediately slipping back into the current.
So because the Genesis wave exists fully within that single reality, that river, when she was phase shifted, the wave simply passed through the space she was occupying. It couldn't interact with her matter.
Precisely. She described it evocatively as being like a bad singer who used vibrato to make sure she hit the right note at least some of the time.
Wow.
That intermittent existence was just enough to make her untouchable by the reorganization wave. It's an incredible stroke of luck.
So with everyone she knew gone, Leah and her Tellarite assistant, Paul Dor, escaped Saran carrying the only data chip they had.
And they observed that the wave was a continuous energy phenomenon, moving through space, expanding, variable in speed, and leaving utter destruction in its wake.
They were determined to warn the Federation, and their next stop was a nearby planet, Hakon.
Kakon. Already Klingon-influenced, it was exactly where they needed help, but they found skepticism instead. This is where we encounter Klingon Consul Maltz.
A fascinating character.
A very fascinating character study. He's a political outcast, a former bounty hunter, and an old warrior haunted by the original Genesis incident 90 years prior. He was suffering from vivid flashbacks of the green fire he witnessed during Khan's attack.
And the sources show he was drowning his guilt in drink, and he was eventually locked up after a brawl with the local Tellarite civil guard.
He was suffering from the guilt of his past association with the incident and the sheer, uncontrollable destructive power of Genesis.
So Maltz is locked in his cell, and he's listening to the Tellarite guards dismiss Leah Brahms and Paldor as alarmists.
But he immediately recognizes the frantic tone. He recognizes the description of this strange propagating energy phenomenon. And he realizes he is staring at the ultimate danger, and he has to get out to confirm his fears.
And this leads to this magnificent old-school Klingon jailbreak.
Oh, it's incredible.
The jailers had taken his knife and his sidearm, but they foolishly left him his ceremonial chainmail sash, believing it was just clothing.
Big mistake. Maltz knew it was his personal armory.
So from crevices, folds, and hidden pouches within that sash, he meticulously withdrew a veritable survival kit.
3 small throwing daggers, a thin garrote wire, a stiletto, a vial of potent acid, a wad of gel explosive, and a pair of knuckle armor.
And the crucial item for escaping the modern cell's force field was a tiny signal mirror.
Right. He used the knuckle armor to push that mirror under the force field's blind spot, right near the power emitters.
This wasn't just brute force, was it?
No, it was brilliant. The force field works by propagating energy in a certain pattern. By introducing a precise mirror reflection, he forced the field to focus its own energy back onto its emitters.
So the system attacked itself.
It imploded with a flash of smoke and sparks. He then drilled a small hole in the abutting concrete wall using the acid and the stiletto, planted the gel explosive, and detonated a meter-wide escape route. Staggered out onto the street with his clothes still smoking. That is commitment.
He immediately confronts Leah, demanding to know what she's running from, and he is the one who confirms the terrible truth for her.
He gives her the name, Genesis.
And he insists the Federation knows the technology and is responsible either for failing to contain it or, worse, for allowing a perfected version to fall into enemy hands.
He screams that he knew the code word, confirming the Federation's long-held secret.
So Maltz, instantly revitalized by the pursuit of a worthy enemy, joins their desperate flight from Hakon.
And they pick up one more unexpected ally. Consul Bekra, a Capellan who quickly admits to working as a spy for the Romulan Star Empire.
A spy.
As they flee Hakon moments before the wave hits, Maltz's quick strategic analysis of Leah's trajectory chart confirms their worst fears.
The path is not localized.
It's widening dramatically through the neutral zone, targeting dozens of Romulan worlds, and, most ominously, Earth itself.
A Klingon warrior, a Starfleet engineer, a Tellarite assistant, and a Romulan spy, all united in a tiny shuttle, carrying the weight of a galactic warning. The situation could not be more dire.
With the Genesis wave rushing toward the core worlds, Starfleet Command is forced into an immediate, unprecedented emergency posture. The first major response comes from the flagship, Captain Picard aboard the Enterprise.
Picard receives these fragmented warnings and confirms the communications blackouts in Sector 4368. Geordi LaForge and Data begin identifying the unusual readings.
And the severe distress emanating from the sun in system SY911, which is a horrifying indicator that the wave is draining or distorting stellar energy as it passes.
The Enterprise investigates the system and suffers its first direct casualty event.
A hull breach in the forward torpedo room. But the Genesis effect manifests not as a standard explosion, but as this rapid malignant transformation of the bulkhead itself.
It's described in the reports as glowing vegetation that mutates the metallic bulkhead, creating a cancerous, rapidly growing hole.
Crew members attempting repairs suffer anguished screams as the metal liquefies and fuses around them. The breach becomes a molten green substance that almost looks alive, like aggressive, transformed matter reaching out.
It's terrifying, and Picard is forced to make a heart-wrenching decision to save the ship.
He has to jettison the entire forward torpedo module, sacrificing 10 crew members who are attempting to seal the breach to prevent the Genesis effect from spreading throughout the ship's superstructure.
That's an immediate high-stakes casualty list that sets the tone for the entire command response.
Shortly after this, their sensors pick up a severely damaged Type 8 shuttlecraft, sending out these vague, non-identifying distress signals.
Leah Brahms' shuttle, the Paul Revere.
Paul Revere. They noted it was traveling at warp 3, which is exceptionally fast for its class, desperate to maintain distance from the phenomenon.
So the Enterprise rescues the 4 survivors. Brahms confirms the velocity and trajectory of the wave, and Becker's presence immediately provides leverage and highly valuable intelligence that Starfleet didn't anticipate.
And leadership is immediately centralized under Admiral Elena Nakayev.
She's known for being hard-nosed, usually focused on counterespionage against groups like the Maquis and the Cardassians.
She takes command. She sends the U.S.S. Sovereign, described as the best ship in the fleet, toward the crisis zone. And she also begins mobilizing the entire Starfleet under a deep cover password. Tulip bulbs in spring.
Tulips are blooming again sooner than expected.
Right. It maintains secrecy while initiating this massive strategic deployment.
But Nikhaev initially insists on maintaining complete secrecy to avoid mass panic across the core worlds.
And Picard, witnessing the horror firsthand, immediately forces her hand. He insists that they must muster fleets and initiate planetary evacuations immediately, regardless of the panic factor.
And it's only at that point that Nikhaev reveals the full classified truth to Picard.
That Carol Marcus was kidnapped 6 months prior, confirming that Starfleet had been expecting this disaster. She hands Picard a purple storage chip containing the complete redacted history of Project Genesis. The knowledge they hid for a century is now their only defense.
But the biggest technical hurdle emerges almost immediately on the Enterprise. Leah Brahms and Geordi LaForge, working together, realize something.
They realize that if they are going to create protective phase-shifting shelters capable of housing millions on a planetary surface, they need power and precision that Federation technology simply cannot match.
They need high-power interphase generators, and these are the core technology only possessed by the Romulan Star Empire, the crucial component of their legendary cloaking systems.
Why were the Romulan generators so uniquely suited for this survival application?
It comes down to power density and field precision. The Federation's imitation cloaking technology is unstable and power-hungry.
But Romulan interface generators, they maintain an incredibly stable high-power field designed to physically shift massive objects like warships out of phase with reality.
And that level of precision and continuous high output power is exactly what's needed to generate a phase-shifting dome deep enough into a planet's crust to protect millions for the necessary 10 minutes.
This is where Admiral Nikhaev's experience with espionage pays off. She uses the intelligence provided by the newly acquired Romulan spy Bekra to set up the most desperate, reluctant alliance in modern Federation history.
The Klingon response, however, is pure Klingon efficiency.
Oh yeah. Maltz, now having confirmed the existence of the Genesis weapon, swears a blood oath against it and the demons who unleashed it, earning the cheers of his peers, including General Grakor.
His redemption is complete. He transforms from a disgraced drunkard to a warrior with purpose.
And the Klingons arrive to assist, performing efficient, ruthless evacuations on Serenad 8th. Their strategy is decisive. Prioritize action, maintain absolute order, and kill rioters if necessary to ensure the survival of the majority.
And this brutal efficiency saved an estimated 4 million lives in a matter of hours. Maltz, respected once more, is immediately reassigned to the fleet, ready for combat.
Now for the Romulans. Commander Tomalak and other Romulan commanders are summoned by the Praetor.
And on the surface, they view the Federation as pathetic fools who took the noble science of terraforming and created the most horrendous weapon in the galaxy.
They feel superior, but they face the same extinction event.
The wave is confirmed to cross the neutral zone, threatening dozens of their core worlds. Faced with existential destruction, the Praetor makes an agonizing decision.
He orders his commanders to hand over their invaluable top-secret interphase generators to Starfleet scientists for immediate replication.
And the code word for free passage into Federation space.
Genesis. The weapon they hate is now the password for their survival.
So the Romulans know they're handing over the secret to their strategic advantage, but they have no choice.
But the alliance is instantly compromised by the deeper, cynical ambition within the Romulan command structure.
Romulan Commander J. Gren.
Yes. He is secretly tasked by Proconsul Waterbach with capitalizing on the chaos. Waterbach believes the Genesis ways makes all conventional mighty warships obsolete.
So Jagran's mission is to steal the Genesis device itself, or any perfected blueprints impossible.
This isn't collaboration. It's a strategic maneuver designed to give the Romulans the ultimate unchallenged weapon while the Federation is on its knees defending itself.
They just bought survival at the cost of giving away their most sensitive defense, while the Romulans are planning a final, treacherous move.
And that focus shifts entirely to Myrmidon, the highly spiritual and densely populated homeworld of the Bolian people.
This is the last habitable planet on the predicted trajectory before the wave hits Earth. Starfleet's final, desperate gamble is to use the newly acquired Romulan technology to save millions.
The survival plan is a high-stakes, large-scale implementation of Leah Brahms' phase-shifting suit technology. The Romulan generators are the core component.
And the shelters are rapidly set up in large, pre-existing and already crowded locations, planetary factories, and, crucially, Bolian religious sanctuaries, like the revered sanctuary of the First Mother.
Brahms and LaForge are under unimaginable pressure, facing massive technological hurdles. First, they need to ensure the phase-shifting field extends deep enough into the planet's crust.
Because if the field is too shallow, the genesis effect's massive seismic side effects, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions, will simply annihilate the people inside the shelter from below.
Exactly. And secondly, they need reliable power. They had to find enough high-density gel packs to maintain the shield for the crucial 10-minute duration of the wave's passage.
10 minutes of continuous high-power field generation to keep millions of tons of matter out of phase. The margin for error is zero.
And they ran a successful large-scale test on Myrmidon in a field of gigantic artichoke-like native vegetables.
Right. Using a simulated protomatter beam to mimic the wave, the phase-shifting field worked perfectly. It proved they could physically miss the material they were protecting.
But the power levels dropped alarmingly, a 22% drain in 1 minute. Still, the test proved the concept was viable. It was their only hope.
But while the engineers were fighting physics, the human element was just breaking down entirely. Counselor Troy, who had been struggling with the psychic trauma of witnessing the Genesis effect on Persephone V just prior.
She was on the ground gauging the resistance. And the social chaos was overwhelming.
The Bolians are fundamentally a peaceful, deeply spiritual, and optimistic people. They couldn't compute the nature of the threat.
Many were in profound denial, believing the threat was a hoax, or that their spiritual home, containing their holy relic, the crown of the First Mother, was metaphysically untouchable.
So they flatly refused evacuation, trusting only in their faith.
And Troy's reports document a growing, horrific trend: mass suicide.
She discovered groups of Bolians committing suicide by drinking poison in preparation for death. They genuinely believed this self-inflicted death was either the specific will of the First Mother or a way to avoid the agonizing, transforming suffering they were told was coming.
She was struggling desperately to convince him to use the Starfleet shelters, fighting against centuries of ingrained spiritual belief.
And amidst this terror and chaos, a crucial secret event unfolded. Dr. Beverly Crusher was investigating the abandoned U.S.S. Neptune.
One of the missing task force ships that had vanished earlier.
And she finds a passenger waiting for her in the deserted sickbay.
Her son, Wesley Crusher.
Yes. He had returned, having traveled across vast expanses with the Traveler, specifically to aid in this crisis.
And the sources make it clear he is no longer a mere human. He's a being of immense, nearly godlike power.
But he insists his presence and abilities must remain a complete secret to avoid causing a massive distraction. The galactic community cannot know of his transcendence right now.
And the Neptune itself provided no answers, despite being fully functional. It was completely deserted, without a single crew member, only strange piles of dried leaves left behind in the compartments.
The mystery of what happened to the crew remained unsolved, just compounding the terror.
Meanwhile, on the ground, Commander Riker found himself caught in this horrific social breakdown. He materialized on Persephone V, the second planet hit, to perform close-range sensor readings before Myrmidon fell.
And he was instantly caught in a furious mob scene. Panicked rioters were killing each other, trying to get aboard private shuttlecrafts, some of which crashed tragically into buildings.
He was only saved from being trampled by activating the phase shifting in his suit. That split-second decision meant he wasn't there when the riot surged past him.
He later materialized down in Myrmidon, finding Troy. She had armed herself with a phaser rifle, pushing her way through the masses, only to be found injured and unconscious amidst one of the mass suicide sites.
The psychological toll of this disaster is just profound.
And the final minutes before the wave hits Myrmidon are pure cinematic anxiety. Admiral Nechayev decides to remain on the surface in one of the shelters as a calculated show of confidence to the wavering Bolians.
She takes Leah Brahms and Dolores Linton with her. If the Admiral of Starfleet stays, perhaps the Bolians will trust the shelters.
Then comes the ultimate, horrifying strategic betrayal. Data interrupts Picard's bridge preparations with a chilling report.
The supposedly deserted, mysterious U.S.S. Neptune has reappeared. It is fully functional, fully armed.
And is firing torpedoes and phasers directly at the phase-shifting shelters on the surface of Myrmidon.
This changes the entire nature of the threat. This is not just an anonymous entity using stolen technology. This is strategic malice.
Who can deploy a superweapon and command Federation assets to destroy the very infrastructure designed for survival?
Picard is instantly faced with ordering the destruction of a Federation ship, possibly commandeered by a devastating unknown foe, even as the computer countdown starts to the Genesis wave's arrival.
And Riker, seeing the explosions from the surface, is frantically trying to retrieve the unconscious Troy and a small surviving child named Desir.
A child who was saved by her mother, who gave her a pin and directed her to safety. Malt and his Klingon allies are already on the surface, preparing for the inevitable, whether they are in a shelter or not.
But with seconds left, Data and Riker manage to transport Troy and the child back to the Enterprise just as the wave hits.
And the final dreadful images confirm the disaster. The sky turns a mottled, sickly green, the ground trembles violently, and the searing, transforming flame engulfs Myrmidon.
The attacking Neptune is destroyed in the monstrous, self-perpetuating tidal wave of energy. Myrmidon is lost.
And the Genesis wave rushes onward, undiminished, toward its ultimate target, Earth.
We've covered a century of secrecy in the past 6 months of panic. We've lost multiple star systems, sacrificed countless lives, and forced the most reluctant alliances in galactic history, handing over our tactical secrets.
And yet, despite deploying cutting-edge classified technology, our final stand on Myrmidon was not a victory.
And we are left with a massive, terrifying strategic question. The enemy is sophisticated, highly informed, and utterly merciless. We know who made the Genesis wave, but who deployed this perfected version?
And why did they utilize the seemingly deserted Federation ship, the U.S.S. Neptune, to specifically target the phase-shifting shelters?
This suggests the enemy isn't just seeking planetary destruction. They are targeting the Federation's ability to survive, its strategic planning, and its morale.
They are turning Starfleet's own vessels against its people, ensuring that failure is complete and that rescue is impossible. The enemy understands the technology and, crucially, understands Starfleet's weaknesses.
This raises an important question.
The Federation tried to hide the technology, right? Arguing that they must keep the knowledge because we must not let others turn our own science against us.
But by hiding it, they created a perfect, centralized target for intelligence gathering.
Exactly. So now that this classified, devastating power has been stolen, weaponized, and aimed at the Federation core, what price will they pay for the century-old decision to hide, rather than fully and ethically destroy, the knowledge of Project Genesis?
A price measured in star systems and perhaps the entire core of the Federation. The knowledge they sought to protect has become means of their destruction. Thank you for diving deep with us. We'll continue to track the progress of this unprecedented disaster in our next deep dive.